Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Hofcast. We're going on Monday night tonight. I'm actually leaving for Charleston tomorrow for Thanksgiving, so wanted to get it out of the way on Monday this week. Appreciate you guys stopping by. We have a great guest on with us today, Brandi Snow. We got a lot of stuff to talk to with her, so she will be our only guest today. Before we get started, I want to remind everybody that I have my Christmas giving project back up and running. What we do is I take donations and I buy gift cards and then go hand them out on Christmas Eve to, inner city, places that kind of suffer from, financial stress. And you can read all about that on the website at hofhuddle.com, what we did last year. And we just got it started back up this year. So last year we raised over $4,000 and over 200 gift cards for kids that every single dime went to the kids. So we're doing that again. So if you would just take a look at that, you'll find it on my Twitter and the website. But without further ado, I've wanted to say that for a long time. I think that's the first time I've said that. We are going to have Brandi Snow join us. Brandi, how are you today?
Good. How are you?
Not bad. When I first started this podcast, you were one of the people that I thought about that, just have so much stuff that kids would be able to learn from through basketball, through life lessons that you cover the whole spectrum. So I'm really excited to have you. I know you're a busy single mother. Well, I don't know if you're single, but you're a mother of a young child. Just bought your own house, so you got a lot of responsibilities. I really appreciate you coming on tonight. We go back a long way. I mean, I think we just decided that I first met you when you were a sophomore at Lake, and you were one of the kids on our very first team huddle teams, which, man, 2015 now. That seems like a long time ago. So we definitely go way back, and just for people, just so everybody know, you were probably the first kid that I was really hard on. So the fact that you're still talking to me 7 years later, I guess that's all right. But I got a reputation of being hard on certain kids, and particularly our point guards and our leading scorers. So you definitely fell in that boat.
It's all for the best.
Well, you've had a incredible basketball journey. You started at Lake High School, obviously, went on to play at Shawnee State, and you were a 3-time All-American. Every year you played, you were an All-American. Even when you were a freshman, like the NAIA don't have like freshman All-American teams. It's just the All-American teams. I think they do 3, and you made it even as a freshman. So obviously you've covered a lot of ground. One thing I remember about you way back in the day is, if I remember correctly, you played 4 sports, right? Volleyball, softball, track, and basketball.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Maybe you stopped softball at a certain point, but that's obviously a big topic all the time, multiple sports or specialize in one sport. How do you feel about that? How do you feel from your experience playing multiple sports helped you, or even, you can be honest, nobody cares anymore. You're out of high school. Was it something that maybe you regret after the fact, after you focused on just one sport?
No, so I definitely am all for like playing multiple sports. I think it helped me gain like a lot of perspective and different. I mean, you get to have different coaches, different environments, and I mean, I had to learn patience through all the sports in different ways, and it just helped. I'm extremely competitive, so it helped to have something all year round. Like, even obviously, I know with basketball, you can continue to work out and do things like on the off season too. But it was like nice to have an environment where you could be competitive all year round, like win or lose, or just have some type of competitiveness. But I don't regret it at all. I'm actually thankful I had it. I think if anything, it made me more competitive. Just you're not going to be like the best in every single sport. So some sports you're weaker in than others. So then that just you work harder in that area, I guess. But
do you feel now, when you went to Shawnee State, your game really took off.
Yeah.
And there's multiple reasons for that. We're going to get into a couple of those, but you certainly really elevated your game. Was there any point where you thought, man, if I would have put more time, and I'm not saying you didn't put time into basketball, but playing 4 sports, your time's spread pretty thin.
Yeah.
Was there any point where you thought, man, if I would have, maybe not just focused on basketball, but focused more on basketball, that, the ceiling would have been higher?
Yeah. So I didn't even, I don't think we just said, well, I didn't play AAU until going into my senior year. So I got I was late. So the only basketball experience I ever had was just like playing school basketball. And so I think in that aspect of things, I think if I would have gotten into it a little bit earlier, I would have had a little bit more exposure or even more experience with that. But yeah, honestly, when it came to like working out, like and doing things out of the off season, I didn't do anything. Like I know, granted, we'd have like our team camp, in high school and things like that. But honestly, it was just season to season. So it'd be volleyball time, and then it'd be softball and track time, and then basketball time. Obviously I played basketball all year round by myself, but it'd be just like going to the YMCA and hooping or playing with whoever was just there at the time. But yeah, like I definitely think if I would have, because I was amazed with when I went to college, the amount of like, obviously I was practicing every day, like individuals every day, doing everything every day above and beyond, what's the minimum requirement. And I was really amazed how much like my game elevated just by doing that. So in my head, I was like, well, I wonder if I would have, been doing this sooner, what it would have looked like. Yeah, especially with my shot.
I was just going to say, I specifically remember a couple things that you weren't real great at in high school, even though you were still dominant. One of them was 3-point shooting and using your left hand, which we're going to get into the recruiting a little bit later. But when I went to see at Shawnee State or I watched online, I'm like, man, you were shooting a 3 really well. I mean, it was very obvious that you were putting more time in, and it was evident. So, when you were at Lake all 4 years, it was a much different situation for you. Even though you are a great player, you won Federal League Player of the Year, which we will get into here in a second. But as a freshman, you started on the JV team. And then even as a sophomore, you played sparingly off the bench. And then when both of those teams that you played on were really good teams, and there weren't a whole lot of minutes, but that's something a lot of kids struggle with, especially with social media anymore. They feel like if I'm not playing as a freshman, or if I'm not starting as a sophomore, I'm not good, or I'm not going to be able to move on to the next level, or, it's just it feels like anymore, it's just so discouraging for kids. What was that like for you, and what would you tell kids now that, hey, it's not make or break at that age?
Right. So granted, like I said, like you said, there's the people ahead of me were very talented. Like we had a very good program. That's when Coach Cobb was coaching. He was amazing. And I remember I was fortunate enough to come in to have like the leaders above me that really, that program, it was all about, the amount of work you put in, and it was grit, it was toughness. So, granted, I would play occasionally my freshman year with varsity, but it would be, believe it or not, it'd be like in close situations where they'd be like, all right, we need a steal, or hey, we need someone to play defense, because that's about the only thing I could do at that point in time, or make right hand layups. But it really was just like, I think I had to understand that there's so much more I had to do to develop my game. Like, it's not, you go from, obviously, you filter through people in middle school, but who you can kind of tell who's going to be the ones who really want to make this like go and play college ball and all that stuff. So when you get to the high school level, it's completely different than what you're going through middle school. So I think just understanding, like, you have to put work in. It's not just going to be like you just step into it and it's like, hey, I'm going to start. I'm sure there's some schools that are the situation. Yeah. But I think if anything, you should look at it as a positive thing, because you, like, up until I got to high school, I literally I played and I was the best. And I'm not trying to say that anytime, but I had no competition like
No, you were the best
on my team. Like I didn't. So like, and that was one of the things, and I know we're going to talk about recruiting later, but even picking out of college, I remember saying, I don't want to just come in and start. Like, I want to come in, I want to have competition. I want to get better. I don't want to just, run the program or anything, because I mean, if you get stagnant, you're gonna get bored. Well, I do anyways. So, I mean, that's the biggest thing. So when you come in as a freshman, you have to understand that it's not like you're just gonna get it all at once. You have to put the work in. And I understand like there's gonna be times where it is discouraging. I remembered wanting to start. Like I remember when I officially my freshman year, I was like, I was humbled. I realized I'm like, okay, like these people are good. Like, you go to practice, they've got more talent than I do, and they're stronger, they're quicker, things like that. So I'm like, okay, I have to work harder. I just have to work harder. And then I remember my sophomore year, I was sixth man off the bench for varsity. And it was like, same situation. Like I come in whenever like we needed energy and things like that. But even then I was like, I really want to start, but the people ahead of me were good. And I competed with them every day. I practiced tooth and nail. But that being said, we made each other way better. So like they got better, I got better. And then when it was my time, my junior year, to come in and, after we graduated nine lettermen my junior year. So it kind of was like we were starting from scratch. I really had to like step up my game. And that's when I kind of realized, you don't appreciate players, as much as you should until they're gone.
Yeah.
But really I think it's just understanding that you're just going to have to work for what you get. I think at any level you do, that's the way it is. And I know it can be disheartening at times too, because you do put so much work in. But time will come, and you just have to stay the course and keep working.
Your junior and senior years, I mean, let's just face the facts. Lake was bad.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no two ways around it. But you were certainly the focal point and the leader, the leading scorer, the leading rebounder. Probably the leading everything, if I had to guess. What was that challenge like, being somebody who you have so much talent, you have so much going for you, but you're literally on a team that gets beat every single game? I know you guys won some out of conference games, but I think when you were a junior and senior, you only won one Fair League game.
I don't know if we won my year, to be honest with you. I don't know if we had. I know we won a couple my senior year, but my junior year, I don't think we won. I might not have even won one.
I remember specifically that you didn't, because I remember. I say I'm old and I forget things, but sometimes for some reason I remember talking to you, because you were, you played for me and whatnot, and I remember getting texts from you saying, "Oh, we just want to win a Fair League game," and I'm just like, I don't know. And then we went through the same conversation through the summer, playing AAU, and you're like, "Oh, I know you're very optimistic," and I'm just like, "Man, I don't know. I would love to see it." And then it did happen your senior year. I think you won one.
We won. I know we won at least. We won more than one, but it was every game, besides maybe one or two, were like so close to winning. Like everyone was just so close, which made it so much more like.
Kind of what Lake has been through the last couple of years. I mean, and they're in games, like they're challenging good teams, and they're right there. But what was that challenge like for you? There's a lot of kids that are in the same boat that you were. What would you tell those kids? Hey, it is what it is. This is what you got to do.
Yeah. So honestly, to be transparent with you, it was very, very hard my junior year, because I had, like I said, I had all these leaders around me, and then they just left it. We had to start from, kind of from scratch. So it was tough, but it was hard, because being a leader, you had to stay positive no matter what. You can't, I mean, if you're showing that you're frustrated, they're going to feed off that. And they're just, I mean, I'm not the only one's going to feel like crap because we lose all the time. Like everyone else on the team is, they're doing the best they can.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can work with what you have. So honestly, it's just staying positive no matter what. You have to control what you can control and do what you can do. And at the end of the day, eventually you will get rewarded for it, no matter, like, at the end of the day. So, but I truly believe, because of everything I went through with high school, with, growing between my junior and senior year, like, it really just taught me a lot. I learned a lot of patience. I learned a lot about being a leader, and being able to really let myself grow, as a player, mentally and physically. And, that was when I kind of was like, I have to do more than make right-handed layups and play defense.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, just to be an all-around better player, I remember trying to shoot, working on my shot, and helped. I got a little bit better, but I had a little shot put thing going on.
The thing that you face a lot, and a lot of great players do, even on good teams, to be honest with you, but mostly on teams that don't have a whole lot, you face a lot of double teams, probably some triple teams, face guarded probably the entire year, junk defenses, boxing ones, you name it, you've seen it on a daily basis. And you played against players like Kirsten Bell, Taylor Mikesell, Carly Peru, Kimmy Borg. I mean, the list of kids that were in the Federal League when you were there was outrageous.
Yeah.
What was that like going through on a nightly basis? And again, that's something a lot of kids, even to this day, face. How did that help you?
Yeah. So, like I said, I'm very competitive. So whenever I knew I was going up against somebody with a big name, it was like, I took it personally, because I'm like, I want to prove that I am better than them individually. But you have to do that as a team. I mean, it's a team sport at the end of the day. You know what I mean? So the biggest thing was, doing what I can do, but like trying to get my team involved. And that was hard, because I couldn't get anybody to take a dang shot. There was 3 players on me. I'm like, somebody's open, and they get them the ball. They want to shoot it. I'm like, shoot the ball. But like, honestly, it was tough. Like, it really was, because, like I said, my junior year, I would come so close to winning, or even my senior year against like the bigger teams like Jackson, Hoover, we would come so close to winning, and then it would just be like just taken from me. And like, you work so hard for 40, I don't remember, college is 40 minutes. I don't remember in high school how long is it. Yeah, you work so hard for that long. and then it's just like, all that for nothing. But I mean, every game got better and better and better. And my senior year, I won Federal Player of the Year. So it must have, my hard work paid off. And that was actually my goal my freshman year. I was like, I'm going to win it 1 year, because I don't think Lake had ever had one that had ever won not National Player of the Year, Federal League Player of the Year. So that was like my goal. I had a list of goals. That was one of them. And I actually got it. I remember talking to my coach, my assistant coach at the time, Coach Tadulis. And I was like, hey, it was like, we had like a team dinner or something. And I was like, hey, we got a couple games left in the season. Like, what do I have to do to get Federal Player of the Year? Like, what do you think it's going to take? And he was like, Brandy, I'm going to be honest. He's like, our record's about half and half right now. It's not, he's like, I don't know how good it's going to take or what you have to do, but just keep playing. And we did. And I got it. So I was pumped about it. And that was like one of my goals, but that meant a lot to me. That was like the past 2 years and everything I'd gone through. I'm like, at least I got something out of it.
Yeah.
I felt really rewarded for that.
I'm going to get back to that in a second, but I want to ask, all the junk defenses and everything, is that something that you feel like definitely helped prepare you for the next level? Because that doesn't happen in college. I mean, everybody on the team can shoot or score, and play, and you just don't see that in college. For kids that are going through that now, I mean, can you look back at that and say, hey, I mean, I know it was annoying at the time, but it probably made me a better basketball player.
Oh, for sure. Because when you get to the college level, it's like your decision-making time and the amount of time you have to like score or anything is so minimal compared to being in high school. So when I was triple teamed in high school, and whenever I had, it was in comparison, it's like, when you have a lockdown, I had lockdown defenders on me in college. So it was obviously not like the exact same thing, but it definitely helped me. You have to think outside the box. Like, you literally can't just, in high school, I just couldn't date people with 2 3s on me because I couldn't shoot. So I couldn't just dribble past 5 people. There's other things you had to do and, get people open to get shots and just create different things. But that definitely helped me. Granted, I mean, college is still a completely different level of play, but still it helped, prepare me. When I got to college, it was a different team too, but just the caliber of play from defensively was something that was completely different. But having that much pressure defensively in high school definitely helped, and especially with my dribbling.
Yeah.
My dribbling, that was one thing I was like, I know I'm gonna have to work on this because I can't. I mean, granted, I'm in high school. I don't know. My thing in high school was just run around people before they can, actually sit down and play defense on you. And usually that worked, but
Oh yeah. You were, for the most part, you were always the strongest and the quickest kid on the floor. And you jumped really well. So athletically, you were usually the top of the top, but not in college, obviously. The whole ball game changes at that point. But you mentioned the Federal League Player of the Year, and I remember being extremely proud of you. Stadoulis was trying to be nice to you. You guys' record was not half and half. I remember people were in an uproar that you won that award because, again, Taylor Mikesell, McDonald's All-American, Kirsten Bell. I mean, they both played major Division I and were highly recruited. And then you even add on the other kids. Carly Peru had an outstanding year. The fact that you won that, I mean, were you surprised? I mean, what was your reaction when you I mean, I'll be honest, I was stunned.
Yeah.
And a lot of other people were. I certainly believe you deserved it. But the people that you were up against, you were certainly the underdog. What was your reaction when you heard the news?
I mean, I was elated. Like I honestly I was shocked because I was like, our record was crap. So I'm like, I just know it's not looking good. And I remember hearing it and I just was like, my coach told me, I was like, you're lying. Like I remember like, like he's like, yeah, you got it. I was like, what? I was like, what? But I mean, yeah, I couldn't believe it. I remember I think I talked to a couple of coaches afterwards, like obviously after the season ended, I've seen them, but
yeah.
I mean, just a lot of them said that, honestly, we put it in perspective, like if any of those other girls were in the position that you were, even as bad as you guys were, we don't know if they could have done what you did with the team or been even, over the past 2 years or anything. So that made me feel really good. I feel like I gained respect from like, because I mean, it's obviously the coaches, like, so I gained respect from the coaches. Like that meant a lot to me. Which means like, I really appreciated that because I thought like they've seen, all the work I put in, they understand.
Yeah. I mean, it certainly, to me, that's the biggest point. Like these coaches had so much respect for you. The ones that ran double teams at you all season, the boxing ones and the face guardings, and you still put up, 20 points and 8 rebounds a game.
Yeah.
Despite all that, it really does show the amount of respect that those coaches had for you. And again, even though those 2 seasons were probably really, really tough on you mentally and physically, it had to feel really good at the end, knowing that those coaches felt that way about you. Let's get in now a little bit to the recruiting aspect because, I was fortunate enough to be really close to you and I had a lot of insight on your recruiting. To this day, I can't figure out. Honestly, there's kids every year that I'm like, what the hell? What am I missing? Every year there's kids like that. In your year, that it was you. And, you played with a lot of passion. Some people might have mistaken that for an attitude. But any coach that ever talked to me, they heard from me that the attitude is not a problem. Like I never had any problem with you, and I was hard on you. Maybe you weren't perfect, but neither was I. But it blows my mind still to this day what you did in that tough league, what you did on a nightly basis that so many schools passed you over. And again, I keep saying this, but this is just adding to the list of things that you went through that other kids go through. Unfortunately, you've got all 5 or 6 of them. Some of them only get a couple out of the 6, but What was that like for you? What do you remember about that process? And what was it like going through that from a player's perspective?
Yeah, so I kind of got to the game late a little bit, so that hurt me some. But honestly, it was confusing. It was a little disheartening because I was like, I feel like I'm like I wasn't. Definitely, I don't think I was cocky, but I was like, I feel like I'm okay. Like I'm a good basketball player. Like I didn't understand like what was. I'm like maybe
Yeah.
I'm like I get like honestly when you broke it down, I could play defense and I had a right hand. And that was
Yeah.
about it. And I was like, I know when you get to the next levels, they're gonna want you to shoot. I know like all this stuff. And I was like, and my time had pretty much ran out, so it's not like I could do anything else, or I didn't have a next season
Yeah.
to improve or anything like that. So, and even with the schools that I visited and I went to, I just wasn't finding a fit. Like I was like, this is not where like there was a lot of teams that wanted me to come on visits or that recruited me that wanted me to be like the change of the program. Like they wanted me to come in and be the person to set the tone and like change everything and be the like you're gonna come in right away, you're gonna start, you're gonna do this,
Yeah.
like we're gonna make you the focal point of everything. And I was like, you know what? I've done that for the past 2 years. I want to come in and I want to get better as a basketball player, but I want to have like competition around me. I don't want to come in and just have everything given to me. Like
Yeah.
I want to work for it, and I don't want to just come play. I want to compete for something greater than even a conference champion. I want a national championship. Like that was like my goal. I'm like I want to be able to compete for that like every year,
Yeah.
and be like one of the top dogs of whatever. So I still remember I almost didn't go visit Shawnee State. Like I remember Coach came and talked to me about I think it was we were at a Walsh, like something at Walsh, and he came and talked to me and I just wasn't. I was like, yeah, okay. I was like, all right. I never heard of Shawnee State or NAIA.
Yeah.
Like, I knew nothing. And then I remember I pulled on campus and I was like, I kind of like it. Like, it's nice. Like, I actually like the campus. And I remember talking to the coach. And when I talked to him on the phone, something that got my attention was he mentioned my attitude. Well, he didn't say my attitude. He said, when you're playing, you look like you want to kill somebody. And I love that. And I was like, he gets me. I was like, this is it. Like,
you were just waiting on that coach to take that as a positive, and because that's how you had to be. I mean, we've already mentioned the competition like that. That's how you had to play to get anything done. So,
and I don't remember like I remember seeing like pictures and snapshots, and I just always had the RBF on. But
yeah,
I mean, other than that, I just thought I played hard and I never talked or said anything to anybody. I never, but.
Well, like I said, I had a lot of insight on the process, and it just blew my mind. Like to me, you were a no-brainer. You dominated at Lake on a bad team against great competition. Even when you played for us, I'm pretty sure you were our leading scorer. You dominated. You hit 2-game winners for us. I remember this day. One in what was it, at the Borough in Nashville?
Yeah.
And on the play that we got to do it over because they started the clock. And then one in DC that won the pool for us down there. I remember that one. You were successful everywhere you went. So that was just confusing to me. I do remember a couple things. I know the one for sure was you. The other one, I'm not sure. I'm not going to say any names, but I think you went on a visit to a school and immediately you knew you didn't want to be there because all they talked about was drinking and partying, and you want to get the hell out of there as soon as possible.
Yeah.
That particular school, again, no names, has been through 2 or 3 coaches since then, and has a hard time getting out of the basement. So
that was one of my overnight visits too.
You made a very smart decision in that aspect. And the other thing was, and I don't say your name, but about every 2 years at least, maybe even more often, a kid wants to go to Ashland, and everybody falls in love with Ashland. I remember you were my first player who Ashland really took a liking to, recruited you. You got close with the coaches, visited, loved it, really wanted to go there, and they decided not to offer you. And that was one of my first bad phone calls I've ever had with you that day.
Yeah.
But you certainly were not the last one. And like I said, I tell kids all the time stories like this. Like, listen, don't get too high now. This is
Yeah.
This is a business for them, and they're only looking for 2-3 kids a class. So you got to, have your expectations where they need to be. You already kind of talked about why you decided on Shawnee State, but talk a little bit about the transition from high school to college.
Yeah.
And how that went for you.
Honestly, I was one of the kids when it came to like outside of like sports and stuff. I was ready to like go away. I wanted to. Actually, I'm pretty sure like my goal was like 2 hours away from home. But once I went to school, obviously I fell in love. I wanted to go there. And the coach it was a no brainer for me. But honestly, I loved it. I loved that I could go. I could just go. I could play basketball. I could go to school. That's all I had to I got to focus on was basketball. Like, I'm in school, yes. Granted, I learned that you need to focus more on school than my freshman year, because I actually had straight A's my freshman year, but I didn't focus as much. Like, those were all the easier classes.
Yeah.
But honestly, the transition was fine. I enjoyed being away from school or being away from home, and but on the basketball side of things, holy cow, it was a completely different world. Like, granted, when I came into that, I actually got to come in and there was people ahead of me that I had to beat out. Like, there was some good players, All-Americans that had been there before me, and juniors and seniors. And I came in and it was like, there was a winning culture there already established, which was amazing. Like, I got to witness that. And, the goal wasn't, hey, let's win a couple games, or it was like, we want big red. We called it big red because you get a big red banner when you win a national championship. Like, that's what the goal was. So that was awesome. And it wasn't like you didn't have to, which even I'll have to tell you, whenever it went back the second time to school, we'll get into that. It was different, but that was the first time I was in an environment where it was like it was, everyone was out for blood. Like, it was tooth and nail for everything. Like, conditioning, we had like 3-week conditioning where it was like, oh my gosh, we went through absolute hell. Oh, it was rough. Like, I remember we had to push. That was honestly like the most, like, that's when I was like, okay, this is for me. Because I remember we had to go on the soccer field, which never knew how big a soccer field was until I had to do this. I had no idea it was that big. We had to carry like the 40-pound plates above our head all the way, which is like across campus, above our head to the soccer field. And then we got there. That was tough. So I was like, oh, like, my arms are tired. Like, we'll probably do something light and then have to do it back.
Yeah.
We had to do plate pushes down and back to the soccer, like down and back on the soccer field. And it was like 6 a.m. It was like wet out. So like the turf was wet. And I remember them saying, you're just going to go until we tell you to stop. And I was like, I have no idea what this number could be. And honestly, in my head, it was like 16. And then I started pushing. I think I had to do like one down and back. And I was like, holy cow. Like, this is the toughest thing I've ever done in my entire life. But I remember my legs hurt so bad that like all of our knees were blistered and cut open and just bleeding, because it was just like the raw, like the wet, And I remember getting at the end, and I didn't quit. I was one of the ones that didn't quit. I think we had a couple, but honestly, I think there was like only 2, and they were the bigger post players. So, I was one of the first ones done. He tapped me on the shoulders like, you're done. And it was only like, I think we had to do 4 down and backs, but like the goal was like 6 or something. He made a stop because I stood up and like, my legs hurt so bad that I had no idea. I was like rubbing the skin off my knees. Like, I had no idea. I stood up. I was like, well, my knees are completely cut open. And then everyone got done. We stood up. We had to walk all the way back to campus with the thing over our heads. And then we had to get in the pool and do laps and laps and laps. And I remember that being the first time I was like, but I know this sounds crazy, but I love like this is like next level for me. Like, this is this is like more, like, this is what I've been waiting for, you know what I mean? And like, everyone was fighting for us. Like, it wasn't just like everyone wanted to be the best. We'd hold planks to see who could hold the longest, you know what I mean? Like, things like that just really drove me, because like I wanted to be the best. So like, transitioning from an environment where it was kind of like, oh, we're playing basketball for fun, like going to college, and it was like a lifestyle. Like, that's what we did, and that's what, like, the goal was. And it was great to have everyone on the same page. But
honestly, that's what sets you apart. I mean, not everybody's like you, Brandy. I know you know that. That's what sets you apart, and that's why you went from a kid that played JV as a freshman to a kid who won 3 All-Americans in college. That, again, just to go back to everything we've already been through, despite not playing as a freshman or even much as a sophomore, despite playing on a bad team, the under recruiting, all that stuff, in the past. You get to Shawnee State and you dominate. Like, and again, it started where you just talked. It started in the preseason. What was that like for you to? And again, just so people know, there's no freshman NAIA All-Americans. Like,
Yeah.
there's 3 All-American teams, and you're either on it or you're not, regardless of grade. So you were up there with the big dogs. What did that mean to you going through all that stuff, making that transition, finish a great freshman year, and here you are, All-American?
Honestly, and this is my coach, Coach Nickel, which he's at Georgetown now, but Coach Nickel he pushed me 2 levels I never knew I even had. So like the entire season, he was like, "You're not doing enough. You're not playing." That's what he kept saying. We had a scrimmage. He kept saying, "You're not playing hard enough." We had a scrimmage. I had 8 fouls and I had 16 steals. And I remember him looking at me like, "You're not playing hard enough." And I was like, I don't know what else I have to do. Like, I just remember he kept saying that, and he pushed me and pushed me and pushed me. And I just remember, like, even at the end of the season, like, not saying that I didn't feel like I was good enough, like, to do anything, but like, it just wasn't, I wasn't satisfied. And, you know what I mean? I wasn't satisfied with anything. Like, I think I had like one of my games as a freshman, I was like, I had a triple double or something like that. And I was like, one of them was steals. And I just remember being like, yeah, but I remember them like, Brady got a triple double. And I was like, I know, but I missed, like, I you know what I mean? Just not even thinking anything of it, because he just put that in my head that you just have to keep, you know, you can't be satisfied with where you're at because the goal is bigger than just right now.
Yeah.
So I remember at the end, after the season had settled and everything like that, it was like, or when I found out I got those awards, I just kind of, I don't say I wasn't like, I was shocked, but it was like, just kind of was like, you know, you've done what you're supposed to do. Like, you know, like you're now obviously step one, like you've done, you know, for this year, and you've done great. And it made me feel good, because me and Coach Nickel were in the gym all the time. When I tell you, like that was my life, was basketball my freshman year. So late night, I'd have practice, shower, go home, come back 2 hours later, be in the gym till 3 a.m. just because I wanted to, you know, things like that.
Yeah.
And that was like my piece. And like, that was like my out for everything. And like, it was like everything had paid off. And if anything, it gave me more motivation. Like, for the next year, I was like, okay, I'm gonna get it again, and I'm gonna do one better. Like, I'm gonna get defensive player of the year this year, you know, things like that. Like, it just crossed one thing off, and I wanted to do more after that. But I was honored to even, you know, get that. It was a huge deal. But
yeah. Well, that at that point, I mean, I'm sure you had a great summer even after your freshman year. And then kind of the rough patch hit, and your life took a turn. You know, I want to allow you to kind of, in your own words, explain where it went from there.
Yeah. Okay. So I remember I had played, that summer I was in like immaculate shape, like the best shape of my life. Worked so hard that entire summer. I'm gonna come back better than I was last year, because we had lost a big player on our team. And then I believe I had played both scrimmages as well. So I had played both scrimmages, and I actually it was before our first game. I actually had to step away from basketball. I was like in a very toxic relationship. Eventually, and then I found out I was actually pregnant with my son, which is now 3. But I had stepped away from basketball, and I actually had moved down to Kentucky away from my family for the entire length of my pregnancy. So as you can imagine, that during that time, it was a very dark, horrible, like, I don't want to say that because I was pregnant. That sounds really bad. I had to deal with, like, I felt like basketball was taken from me, which is something I've had my entire life. Obviously I had to deal with being young and pregnant, and then also being in a very abusive, toxic relationship. I had to deal with that. And eventually, whenever Trace was, I believe, 2 months old, I got to come back home, like home in Canton, where I'm at now. I had spent a couple months recovering, and, you know, obviously I had my child, and had to deal with a lot of mental battles. And I remember I hadn't talked to Coach Nickel in a long time, like, since, you know, everything had happened. But I remember reaching out to him and asking if it was, you know, a possibility that I could come back and play. And he was like, I think at first he was like, what? You know, kind of confused, or not necessarily confused, but if anything I'd say about him, he's going to make something happen. And Coach Nickel and me have an amazing relationship. So he's like, yeah, we'll do whatever we have to. We'll get you down here, you know? And obviously like I had to prove myself and I had to do other things because even when I left school, I left. Like I left my relationships with my friends at school. I left my relationship with my coach. It was just a very bad, unhealthy situation that even I had put myself in too. So came back, and let me tell you, when I came back, I think it was a couple months after I had Trace, because it was that following season, because I took summer classes. I had Trace in August. I think I reached out to Coach maybe in March or something, and then I had to take summer classes, obviously, so I'd be eligible to come back and play. But I moved down early, and I moved down, and I had to work and everything, obviously, to be able to pay to live down there, and that was such a battle in itself, like recovering from having a kid to getting back in like to basketball condition. Like that was the most gruesome. I was in pain. Like we would do defensive slides, like, and I would be in pain just because like, I mean, obviously my abdomen was just shredded. Like my muscles were gone. So I just remember like literally, I mean, 4 or 5 times, like in the beginning when we'd have workouts and stuff, I'd have to step away because I was in pain, you know. It just hurt so bad. I have to, you know, get back right into it. But, yeah, it was a lot getting back and let alone that being a single mom, and I was 4 hours away from home and having a kid that was a newborn. I mean, at the time he was like crawling, but, having to, you know, have him and be in school and work and do everything all together. It was a lot. And honestly, I was fortunate enough. My coach was extremely understanding. He was, I mean, Trace and two of my best friends down there, Bailey, which was one of the players at the time. It was her senior year when I came back, and then which was my initial roommate when I came in, and then my old assistant coach Abby, she lives in Cincinnati, so they all helped, and I had like some alumni that played at Shawnee that I knew, and then they also helped, and my like strength and conditioning coach and his wife, like they helped. Like I had a little family down there too that like made everything, you know, possible. Because it was a lot. I mean, Trace we'd have practice and Trace would be running around the, you know, on the side and making noises and stuff, but he'd be in the games in the stands, and he got to travel with us to some of the games. So, which was awesome that I even got to, you know, I got to experience that with him, but that was for 2 years, but yeah.
Did you, when you walked away, did you know that you were already pregnant, or was that something that you found out later?
So I initially walked away without knowing that, just because I had gone through some, like with the relationship I was in, I went through and experienced some things that I just had mentally just completely shut me down, which had never happened to me before. I didn't know how to handle it. So I stepped away from basketball. Well, I think I had, if I can remember, I think I had intentions of coming back. I just needed like a break, but then he's coming.
Oh, here he comes.
Here he comes. Hold on, I'm coming. But yeah, I initially, I think I had intention going back in that. Okay, where's the phone at? What? And then obviously I realized I was pregnant. I couldn't, like I couldn't play basketball to be pregnant. I think, yeah, but it was rough. But
is Trace dunking on the little Tykes hoop yet?
He's been doing that since he was 1. Yeah.
Obviously, I mean, you, quite frankly, you had a lot of things going for you. You know, we just talked about you were at the top of your game, even as a freshman, and then this stuff. You know, I mean, this stuff is really sensitive, and we talked beforehand, and you know, hopefully, there's some things that young ladies can take from this, and hopefully, maybe if they're going through something similar, can help themselves. But did you ever think that there was going to be a time where just like that, basketball would not be that important to you? And what was that like? I mean, or was basketball nowhere near? I mean, I guess if you're going through all that, you may not even think about it at all.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's honestly, whenever I left, when I had to leave, I wasn't so, I mean, depressed for a lot of reasons, but like I said, I literally felt like basketball had been taken from me. Like it was really hard because I couldn't just, I mean, I would try to go play, down like at the YMCA and stuff, but it just wasn't the same. And, and then that's when I really realized how fortunate I was to be in the environment I was when I was at school and to be a part of everything I was. But it was tough. Like, you never think you're going to be in a situation like I was. No, no one ever really thinks that, but, it's one of those things that I am where I am now. And I've gone through some things I've gone through. So obviously I can help other people, but then to just grow from them, learn from them. And they've made me a way stronger person. I am now, like, I know I said I'm 23, but I feel like I'm older than, older than that. But, it's taught me a lot of things. And even having that, like, I got the greatest blessing out of it. Like my son he's my best friend in my world. So,
yeah,
everything happens for a reason, but it was a long process, but yeah,
now,
it was tough.
Despite all that stuff, obviously you had to make a decision to leave that abusive relationship and get back home. And it probably wasn't easy with a small child, but what was it that kind of got you to flip the switch and say, you know what, I've had enough of this. I'm going to take my life into my own hands again. And you made a great decision. But what do you remember? What kind of got you that point to let's head back the other direction?
Yeah. So I had, granted, my family back home. Like I have an amazing family. I have a family that's, just continue. I just know it was God's. And like I know they were praying constantly. My mom was always checking in on me. Granted, obviously at first it was rough. Because my dad, it was rough for my whole family. But once we kind of settled down and realized this is happening, we just got to do what we can with it. And I just have an amazing family, and I just remember them keep pursuing me and like trying, to get me back home. And once I actually had my son, and I had him, and I got to be his, he's my Ellie for 9 months, but once I actually had him, and I remember saying like, this is a decision, I have to do what's best for him. It's not, it's not about me anymore. It's about us and, what's best for him. So granted, things have came a long way from there. And everything's good and he's happy as ever. But, but yeah.
When did basketball enter the picture again? I mean, you kind of brushed on it that you like, how long after you left the team was it while you were still, kind of in the pits a little bit, or did it come after you kind of got back on track? And what happened there to say, hey, I'm still a basketball player. It's time to get back on the court.
Well, so when I originally had left school the first time, I actually remember like I was like, okay, I'm going to go back. And then I found I was pregnant. So I was like, okay, well, obviously I can't go back to and hoop. So that was out of the equation. And then I don't want to say that I was embarrassed, but it just was so like having, like, I was like, I mean, there's situations where some girl I knew went to Lindsay Wilson. She was pregnant, stayed on the team. And then next year she played again. You know what I mean? I was like, I didn't want to, I'd been through so much. I didn't want to go back and, have to experience all that and hear everything. And, but when I had came back home after I had Trace and everything, I just remember like, I started, living a normal life, like working a job and I think I worked at a daycare so I could be around Trace when he was so young. But I just remember being like, I remember like watching basketball and I was like, I have so much more left to give. Like, I'm like, I played 1 year and I was like, I just can't. And then when I would go play with like the Y or something with like, some pickup and I'm like, I cannot give up on this. Like, I have to go back. Like, I don't care where it is.
Probably
and
still dominating.
The best was when I'd go to like the local gym and there'd be guys there and I'd play with them and I'd beat all of them.
Oh yeah. I've been there. I played with Markea Turner at the YMCA with my buddies. I'll never forget it. They were so embarrassed.
Yeah.
So just walk us through that process. I mean, you decided I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to get back on the court. You talked to Coach Nickel. You kind of got that straightened away. Now, when you get down there, like, what is that like? It's not an experience that most people get to go through. A child, you got to work to provide for yourself and him. You got school, you got basketball. Walk us through that timeline for you when you got down there to where you really got comfortable with your new life.
Yeah, so I remember, obviously I did live down there, so I had to find a place to rent, like, before I got down there. So that took a process because it was hard to find a like a good spot for Trace and I. And then finally got my apartment. I moved in. I got a job right away, and I think it was I had like 3 jobs when I was down there. I know one was Aldi's, but I think that was also a daycare. I worked at a daycare down there with Trace too. So that was before, like, obviously, like, the scholarship and everything got hit in, like, the next semester. But I had to work a lot for that. And then I was doing summer classes, and I was obviously trying to get myself back in shape for basketball by trying, keep Trace and having him, which it helped, again, that I had a daycare, that I was there, so I could still see him.
Yeah.
I was just dropping him off. But then once the basketball season hit, I cut back my work hours, and obviously that helped that I still worked, but it helped that I obviously had, like, it was like during the season, so I had the scholarship and things like that financially helped me out. But did that. It was crazy because I remember I'd take Trace to daycare in the morning sometimes, and then I'd go to do my schoolwork, and then I'd go to the daycare, work a couple hours, and then we'd leave I would leave the daycare depending on what time practice was, but I would leave the daycare, go to practice, have practice for a couple hours, and come back. I would leave practice, or one of my coaches would, to pick Trace up before the daycare closed. And then we'd bring him back to practice. We'd have practice until whenever it ended and do whatever. And then that would be our day. And then obviously depended, like, if I didn't have a heavy workload for class, I would just keep him. And then he'd sit in the day with me. And then, like, my strength and conditioning coach's wife would watch him for like an hour. So, it just honestly up in the air all the time. Everything was changing.
Was there ever a time where you got to the point where you had a routine going, it was smooth, or was it never?
No, honestly, like, no. Like, it was constantly, like, it was changing every week. Like, everything was different, and it was just, you had to play it by ear because practice time would change, like, in the morning, or hey, we got to work out. Which, granted, like, my coaching staff was completely, like, super lenient. Like, we'd have lifting. I'd take Brace with me. Like, he would just be up there and, be running around with coaches, and we would have lifting and things like that. Or, he was,
Well, we got through a lot of the stuff that we wanted to talk about, and you know me well. I like surprises, so we're gonna bring in this guy that you may know.
I'm gonna cry.
And you clearly didn't know that he was down there and waiting to be on. He literally has been on here for the last 25 minutes listening. So, Coach,
surprise.
Yeah.
Coach, thanks for coming on. I knew this would be a great surprise. When you think of Brandi Snow, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Just toughness. Just toughness. How tough she was, and if I had another word, probably competitiveness. She's probably one of the most competitive, not the most competitive player I ever coached.
And I don't know if you were on when we talked about this, but we went through Brandi's recruiting and how it was kind of slow, and it just wasn't seeming like she was getting what she had worked for, and you know all this because you and I, when we first started talking about Brandi, we went through it all, so it wasn't news to you. What did you see in Brandi that you thought, hey, I don't give a damn who's recruiting her or who's offered her, this is my kid?
Yeah, I think initially, like, you get in AAU and you go to these tournaments. I mean, gosh, there's 1,000 teams, there's 10 kids on every team, so you do that math. I mean, it's just a lot of people there. And the thing that stuck out to me right off the bat, when you look at a kid, a lot of times you look at what they can't do, what things they're really not good at, and that sort of thing. I think it stuck out to me with Brandi was just how athletic she was. I thought she played hard. I thought she was an athlete. I thought she was able to run and jump. I felt like she was pretty coordinated. You know, and at that time in Brandy's career, she really didn't have a great left hand. She really didn't shoot the ball well from the outside. I mean, those weren't things that she did well. But
We've been
you know,
over
when you're
that
going
too.
through, yeah, when you're going through those tournaments and you're looking at kids, you're like, well, heck, you know, this kid can shoot a little bit, but they're slow, and who are they going to guard? You know,
Yeah.
this kid can drive either way, but you know, they can't shoot, or they're not interested in defense, or they have an attitude. And you know, the thing I remember a lot of times, a lot of coaches, and we talked about this, that well, Brandy always has this bad look on her face, or she's always like looks like this, or look like that. I'm like, well, I'm not playing somebody to go out there and smile all the time. You know, I'm not going to give scars just because somebody's got a nice smile. Like, I kind of like the fact she played angry. I like that. You know, she always did. She played angry. She always played like she had something to prove. She always played like she had a chip on her shoulder. She always tried to find an edge going into a game. Find something that just kind of gave her a little bit of a motivation. And you know, just seeing that competitive drive in her, and it was something that I thought she had. I don't think it was anything like what it turned into, but it was just something you could kind of see out of her. And I thought for us, the way we played up and down, and I thought she'd be a good spread ball screen kid. I thought she could get to the basket. I didn't think her jump shot was to the point where it couldn't be fixed. I just think she needed someone to really work with her and believe in her and show her how to do it. And, you know, Brandy did that. I remember one of the first times I ever worked with Brandy, actually the first time I ever worked with Brandy, Brandy came down for like an orientation. And I remember we had a side goal. We had the bleachers pushed in. And like I was walking in, she just had a regular pair of clothes on. I was like, hey, you got like 5 minutes? And she's like, yeah. And I just went over there and I just overhauled her shot in like 5-10 minutes. Showed her what to do, showed her what to work on, and just gave her some stuff. And she didn't realize that was a test. One, to see if she can remember some things, see if she could comprehend some stuff. And I wanted to see when she came back in a month or so to play maybe in an open gym if she had worked on it. And, you know, she did. She had gotten better at it. And, you know, that showed me right there she had a desire to get better and a desire to come in shape. And a lot of freshmen don't do that. They come in and they're out of shape. You know, every coach gives them a packet and that sort of thing. But a lot of kids just don't follow that. And they really don't understand how hard it is. Like that packet and that off-season program is to keep you basically from, you know, passing out in conditioning. It's not that you're going to be in great. It's just that so conditioning is just not, it doesn't take it out of you, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, she came in pretty good shape, and we just had to kind of keep fueling that fire for her.
Now, you heard how obviously you've been listening for 25 minutes. You know how Brandy feels about you. She said some really good things about you. I saw you cracking.
That wasn't always the case. Let me just be. I mean, I'm just.
I saw you crack a couple greens.
It's all good, you know. But when you're going through it, it's a little different. But yeah.
She couldn't see you sitting down there, but I could. And when she was talking about conditioning, I saw a couple grins get cracked down there.
Oh,
yeah. What was, just briefly, I mean, we've already went through a lot of the situation, but, you know, what was it like as a coach to have your best player walk in your office and say, Coach, I'm done. That's it. You know,
it was a hard, you know, without going into a lot of detail about the specifics and all that kind of stuff, it was really, really hard for me. You know, just for how much I cared about her and how much I loved her, and knowing what she was going through, and knowing deep in your heart she's making a big time mistake. That's hard, but you know, life's about choices. And I tell our players that all the time. Life's about choices, and you make enough good ones, you'll have a good life, and you make enough bad ones, you'll have a bad life. And you know, where you go to school is not the most important choice of your life. It's not. You know, who you're going to marry, what type of career do you want, buying houses. There's a lot of important choices in life. A college is a vessel to get you to where you want to go, to help you make some of those choices and give you some of those opportunities. And it was really hard on our team. To be really honest with you, we had a national championship team. We were ranked number one in the country. We were ranked number one in the country for about 10 weeks that year. And, you know, to have somebody who's your best player step away from that, it is really hard, because, you know, as a coach and as a staff, and you watch all your other players, how hard they work to get to that point. and you feel like you're there, and to have her be able to walk out, because that was the hard thing, seeing us in practice, watching how dominant we were in scrimmages, like not good, but dominant. I would have put our team up against any team in the state. We could have went and played with anybody that year. We really could have. We had 5-6 Division I transfers on that team. We had depth, we had speed, we had shooting, we could guard you. We could play inside, we could play outside, we could do anything. And to have her step away was really, really hard. It's because what you're losing as a coach, what you're losing from basketball, and what you're losing as a person. And I'll be honest, it was hard. I remember coming during the season, and she came to a game, oddly enough, here at Georgetown, and I remember seeing her up there in the stands. And I won't lie to you, I was a little mad, just because I wanted her being with us, and I wanted her playing with us. But she was the kid I cared about enough, and even though we didn't really talk after that, the night that her child was born, I mean, that she may remember, she may not remember this, she might have been drugged up, but the young girl that was with her actually FaceTimed me, and I talked to her the night Trace was born. So she means a lot to me.
So fortunately for you, you got to experience the other end of the pendulum too.
We did,
now,
yes.
Tell me how many backflips you did when Brandi Snow called you and said, "Coach, I want to come back."
Well, first of all, I was just glad she wanted to go back to school. I wanted her to go back to school, and if she would have decided to stay closer to home and maybe go to a Walsh or something like that, I mean, I would have been disappointed, but I'd at least been happy that she's in school, because she had to prioritize stuff differently. But, we were really excited about her, because you're not going to go out and recruit somebody, one that has that experience, that toughness, and she already knew what to expect. She knew how I coached. She was a lot more mature. So the person I got the second time around was an adult, that lived through some life, made some mistakes, rectified a lot of that stuff, and matured a lot more. So I was dealing with a grown woman. I was dealing with a mom. And so, not saying I was looking at her like an assistant coach, but you look at her you coach her, and you communicate with her, and you talk to her, like you're talking to another adult now. Just because she understands that perspective, you don't have to worry about her going off and getting into mischief on the weekends and stuff like that. She's with her kid, she's, doing things like that. So, yeah, we were all ecstatic as a staff. We had a lot of stuff that we had to organize. There's been many times I held Trace in practice, or held him in the weight room, or, different things. And I kept popsicles in my refrigerator, freezer for him, so he could come up and get a popsicle. And,
those things wouldn't have lasted if I was there.
Oh yeah, I mean, he went through quite a few of them when he was teething, so he loved them when he was teething. So it was really cool to see that. Our kids loved her, and our kids loved him. I mean, going on road trips with us, and had to pull over a couple times when he had a accident or two. I remember that. But change the clothes and all that kind of stuff.
I think he threw up.
Job, but we figured it out. But there's a lot of good memories, and it was hard, but it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun having him around. It was a lot of fun having her, and he's kind of like the team mascot. Like everybody wanted to hold him, everybody wanted him around, and it really did lift the spirits. And we always talked about togetherness and that sort of thing, and he was a central figure of that. You would think that sometimes people would get tired of a little kid being around, and even when he cried and stuff like that, he didn't cry that much, but people didn't. Nope, it didn't bother anybody. Everybody loved him.
What does it say about Brandi that, I mean, you can list the things that she's overcame. I mean, getting back into the game, the list of things that she had to overcome. I mean, she talked about a lot of it mentally, the relationships that, she had to overcome that before she even decided to get back into basketball. Then when she did, it brings their own challenges. Like she talked about carrying a job, having school, taking care of a small child. What does it say about Brandi from your perspective? Because you were there for most of it, that she had every reason to say, you know what, maybe basketball is just not what I need to be doing right now. But she overcame all of that and returned to the court and won 2 more All-American awards.
Brandi Brandi learned something, and it's something you learn this your whole life because you're a lifelong learner. But the thing that Brandi learned is Brandi learned something called self-respect, and she learned self-worth. And a lot of young ladies that are listening, they probably don't understand that. You got to know what you're worth. You got to know how to be treated, what the expectations of anybody you're with, whether it's a boss, whether it's a boyfriend or girlfriend, a relationship. You got to know your self-worth, and you got to know what you're worth, and you got to go out and get what you're worth, and you got to expect that. That's your self-respect. If you don't respect yourself, nobody will respect you. And that's something Brandi's grown into. She understands what she's worth now, and that's why she's successful, and that's why she'll continue to be successful, because she sets a goal for herself, and she'll accomplish that goal. She's a determined person. Her coming back her junior year and going through everything we went through. We had a team that got cut short with COVID. That in all honesty, we had a chance. We could have won it again, and that's the thing I feel sorry for Brandi more than anything. She got one crack at postseason her freshman year. We led the nation in field goal percentage, 3-point field goal percentage. We shot 2 of 19 in the national tournament one game and lost the game on a last second shot. And she never really got to go play for it again like that. Last year we had a good team. I'm not knocking our team, but COVID did hurt the recruiting. It did hurt us. It shut us down for visits, and some of the kids we were trying to get, you can't really showcase your school. And I never thought we'd give out virtual tours and things like that. So going into our senior year, we had a lot of people. We just weren't able to really go out and get some of the other pieces that we needed to have to do what we wanted to do. So losing that national tournament her junior year was a big thing. And for her to make All-American 3 times, Brandi had a shot. I mean, if obviously things would have worked out, she probably could have made 4 or 5-time All-American. I mean, she's that good of a player. But her coming back just shows, again, like what I alluded to earlier, her toughness and just her competitive nature. Not everybody can work a job, go to school full time, keep a pretty high GPA. And I'm amazed by her GPA. Her GPA stayed up 3.3, 3.4, 3.5 all the time. It stayed up there really, really high. And she had some hard classes because she was in biology and chemistry and anatomy and all that kind of stuff. And I just remember her coming
all
so
the
many
ones
times.
I failed.
I could talk all day. I remember a time she came in to shoot around. And I looked at her, I'm like, have you went to bed? And she's like, no, I haven't. Like, he coughed, he was so sick, he was throwing up all night. And I mean, she goes out and scores 30 points. It hasn't been to bed, in like over 48 hours. And it's just like, it was just crazy. But that's just her internal drive. She's just a really driven person. And she always played well when the chips were down. She always played well with adversity. It's like she was able to focus. She likes challenges. And I talked to her. She talked about her job at AT&T, and I mean, she's top 300 in sales in the entire United States. Like, it doesn't shock me. She'll probably be in the top 100 in another 6 months. If she continues to do that. It's just the type of person she is. She has to have a challenge, and I don't think kids understand that. Just, man, if you're just the most competitive person in the room and on the floor, man, you can get a lot out of you don't have to have a lot of skill. You can get a lot out of that ability just by being competitive.
Well, Brandi, before we get rid of Coach Nickel, do you have any? I mean, you kind of mentioned a lot of things that he's meant to you. Since you didn't know he was going to be here, is there anything you want to say to him before we? I mean, he's old, so we got to send him to bed.
Yeah, you got to do something.
Oh, he won't be one to sleep anytime soon.
So.
But yeah, I mean, Coach, he already knows we have a great relationship still, but I can't. Even when I went back the second time to play, I remember like him talking to me like, why don't you want to go back to school back there, or anything like that. And it was like, no, like, I want to come play for you. Like, he has my loyalty to the end. I'm going to get, just talking about, but he has been an absolute rock in my life. And I'm so thankful that I even went to Shawnee because I got to have him as a coach. And Trace loves him. And I'm just thankful for like the opportunities that I had and that I actually got to like play under him. Because that in itself has taught me a lot.
If you would have came back for your last 2 years, you would have probably stayed at Shawnee State, right, Coach?
You know what? She.
I would have gone to
We
Georgetown.
love to have her here. You know, we'd love to get her down here in orange and black, but you know, she's
still got 2 years. Still got a year of eligibility left.
She's. We'll take that
2.
phone call if she ever wants to call me. So, but yeah, she's been great, Rich, and you know, I appreciate you reaching out to us. I mean, and I'll be honest with you, Brandy was a kid. Brandy's a kid that could have played for anybody in the Horizon League. She would have been a starter for anybody in the Horizon League, and she probably could have been on any team in the MAC. And I mean that. I'd look at anybody and tell them that. And a lot of people missed on her. And the kids everywhere. Just because you don't get recruited to play at Division I or whatever, there's a lot of good D2s. There's a lot of good NAIs. There's a lot of good D3s. And that doesn't determine what you are as a player. Different people grow at different times, and people miss on people all the time. And you just keep working at it and go somewhere where you have a good experience and go somewhere where they want you. Go somewhere where the coach wants you. And I think that's ultimately why we got Brandi, was because we wanted her. I think she knew that we wanted her more. And last thing, I just remember when she came on her visit, I'd never had a kid smile from the time she stepped on campus till the time she ended. And I remember her dad, Keith, looking at her and like, would you stop smiling? Like, you're just literally giving it away. Like, they know that you're going to go here. And it's like, she was all in at Shawnee State from the time she stepped on the campus until the time she stepped off on it. And, you know, it was really great just being able to kind of follow her senior year. And it was great sometimes when kids sign early because you can kind of get them and go watch them. And I remember we went to OGBR and we went up to, Classic Into Country, and she sat up there with us while we were recruiting. And, you know, it was just a great experience. A lot of experiences with her, and it just goes by fast. You know, it goes by really, really fast. And, you know, it sucks. I love coaching her, but, you know, sometimes you got that goes on, and you have a great friend out of it. And that's what we have now. So I appreciate that.
All right, Coach. I appreciate you coming on.
All right, Rich, thanks for doing this. Appreciate you doing this for Brandi. Great player, and a lot of great life lessons for young ladies out there watching.
Maybe we can find you another Brandi. If that'll get you back up into Ohio, we'll try to get you another.
We'll figure that out. Yep, absolutely.
All right, Coach. Have a great night.
All right, appreciate it, guys.
Brandi, the reason you were my only guest tonight is because I didn't want to rush through any of this. I think it's been great. You know, so we're going to wrap up. I know Trace owes me because he's probably should be in bed by now. I'm going to make sure he remembers I gave him a good night tonight to stay up. But, you know, just tell us a little bit about what you're doing now. And, you know, obviously you say you're 23, but you're literally less than a month away from being 24. So, you know, what's going on in life now?
Okay, so I graduated in May with my bachelor's, and then I started my career at AT&T. I have been very successful doing that, and he said I was top 300. I've been top 200. So I've been number one in the store, and then number one in the district. So, but yeah, it's been good. My competitiveness has really helped with that. But I just bought my house as well. My first home like 2 months ago. So that's where that's at. And Trace is now 3, so he's in preschool and doing that.
You certainly have a lot going for you. I remember, I don't know if you remember not the first time we talked, but pretty close probably. When you went to the Run for the Roses with us, and it was in Lexington. That was when I coached with Mark McVaney with AirTac. Mm-hmm. We sat outside the hotel on the patio and talked for hours and hours. And you know, at the time it was just, you know, talking, and you were a very interesting person. You're very, obviously everybody sees the night. You're good at holding conversations. But for me, that showed me how to connect the players. I can't even tell you how many times I've had hotel lobby conversations with players, or, you know, that was kind of the start of something where, you know, I realized, hey, this is how you connect with players. So you did a lot for me. we went through the whole process together, and I'm running into you at Starbucks while you're trying to get your mocha latte, whatever it is. What's up, Trace?
You want to say hi?
Everything that you've been through. I mean, we talked about a whole lot of stuff tonight. What do you take out of all that, and being gone? You're the only one that went through all of it. Looking back at all that, how do you feel about it now?
Sometimes, like, honestly, it's hard for me to because of where I am now and how happy I am, and as much as I have accomplished, it's hard for me to even, I don't want to say it's hard for me to remember those times, like the bad, all the bad I went through and everything, but it truly has like shaped me into who I am right now. Okay. It really shaped me into who I am right now. And that's like the why, like I'm a good mom to my son, and I'm successful in my job, and everything happened for a reason. And I believe I believe God does everything for a reason. So, I mean, I was in a dark spot and he pulled me out of that. But I'm a crazy 3-year-old. But honestly, it's
tell them we're almost done.
I know. Hey, hold on. It's been a ride, but honestly, like I don't want to say, obviously I'm not glad those things happened, but I'm thankful like they put me where I am now, because I really am like I'm happy with where I'm at, and I feel that if I hadn't gone through what I went through, I probably wouldn't be where I am right now at 23. Obviously I have way more life to live, but
yeah. Final thing here. If there's any girls that are listening to this or will listen to this, maybe experiencing some of the same stuff that you went through, what would you tell those girls about, how to get through that, and what might be helpful for them?
Well, there's a lot we went over, but depending on what it is or whatever situation. Honestly, I think it's a lot of it is surrounding yourself with people who want you to be successful, who care about your best interest, whether that's basketball, whether it's life, or anything, because you don't want anyone getting in your way of doing what you want to do, if that makes sense. And being successful. But I really think, like, when it comes to basketball, like, if you want something, you're going to have to work for it. That's the number one thing I would say with that. Like, don't give up or don't get discouraged just because things don't go your way all the time.
You want to see your phone?
And then when it comes to life, and just in general, you have to do what's best for you. And I think at a younger age, like even if I hadn't gone through everything I've gone through, I'm at this age, I think it's important that, like, it's okay to put yourself, like, first, to worry about yourself and, like, your mental state, or even, your physical being, just everything, like, really worrying about yourself and worrying about, like, your self-growth and everything like that, because I had to do all that very quickly, like within a couple months. So I think if I could go back and, like, say things weren't the way they are, if I would have worried more so about myself and what's best for me long-term, short-term, and everything, I would have been more prepared for a lot of situations that I went through. But yeah, that's it. And don't be afraid to, like, reach out if you need help with something, or don't, feel like a burden or anything. Like, you there's always resources for anything, like anything, whether that's school, basketball, life. If you're in a situation, like, there's always someone that was willing to help. So.
Well, I really, really appreciate your time. Nothing makes me feel better than seeing how successful you are now. I to be honest with you, through the day today, thinking about this show, I was not sure that I was going to be able to, get through it and not get a little emotional, because I remember when all this stuff was going on, and there was a period of several months where I couldn't even get a hold of you. There was no phone, no nothing. And it was, a lot of people, not just me, but we're, worried about you. And just to see you come through, man, and you are literally the illustration of perseverance. And I'm so proud of you. We've done a lot of things together over the years, and I'm just so proud of you, and I love you, and man, you're just, I can already tell you're the world's greatest mom. So
Thank you. I appreciate that.
maybe I'll have to make sure that Santa swings by with some Christmas gifts for Trace, because he's
I'm sure he would love that. Crazy.
But again, thank you for your time. I know he's getting a little restless, so make sure you get him to bed.
I will. Thank you for everything and doing all this. I appreciate it.
All right, Brandy. Thank you for sharing with everybody. We'll talk to you soon for sure.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, bye.
Bye.
All righty, guys. I know that went long. It was an excellent show. Excellent. I mean, if a kid can't watch this and realize that some of the things that they're going through now, even the best players have gone through it, and a lot of things in life. Brandy's been through it all. So I hope everybody watches this and learns something. But I just want to thank Brandy. I'm so proud of her. Everybody, please, we got Thanksgiving here in 1, 2, 3 days. Have a great Thanksgiving. I will be in Charleston. Hopefully the weather is warmer down there than it is here. But basketball season started Friday. I see a lot of good things happen already, and we'll definitely be getting in the gym. So thanks to everybody for listening again. We'll be back next Tuesday with another episode. So remember, do something good for somebody, treat people good, and please don't be fake.